Hello. I wanted to do another pitch because I enjoyed the Harry Potter Wizarding World pitch, and there are, I can write my own stories and put them on the internet or try to get them on websites. I can write my own novels, which I have, and one of them is going to be, I'm going to put it myself on Amazon in November. I've got a play reading coming up. I can do my own original stuff, and I can control, to an extent, getting it done, but like Harry Potter, there are many projects that I would like to see happen that I do not control. And so the only possible way for me to play a part in them happening is to put the idea out there into the world. And what better way than YouTube? So today's pitch is reviving Dance of the Vampires with James Marsters, who played Spike in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Now, Dance of the Vampires, in brief, was not a successful musical. I believe it was, at the time, one of the biggest flops in Broadway history. It was very expensive. It played for, I think, 2 or 3 months. And that's previews and regular performances. I saw, I think, the third preview, and which I was lucky to see because I saw what was supposed to be the, I think, 10th preview, but they canceled a week of performances, or some 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 number of performances leading up to the performance that I saw were canceled because of technical difficulties, and so I was lucky that they didn't cancel my performance, the performance that I was there to see. And at the time, I think I loved the whole musical more than in retrospect and upon re-listens to. I have two recordings. I think they're both sound booth recordings. One of the first preview and one of the final ever performance. Um, and I can see the flaws in the show. At the time, I maybe could, but I was so enamored of it. But one thing I'm still sure of is that the whole might not have been greater than the sum of its parts, I think is the way to put that. It has an amazing score by Jim Steinman. Michael Crawford is an amazing performer. The rest of the cast, all amazing. Mandy Gonzalez, Renee Auberjonois. Uh, everyone was just all in, and they'd have to be because it's a big, heavy show. Not heavy as in dramatic, just as there's so much stuff, and you could get lost. The set was spectacular, the costume spectacular. Um, the parts were there. And I think that the main thing, and this is, again, there are people who point the fingers on the internet, but I think one of the things was Michael Crawford didn't want his performance as Count von Krolak to be compared to his performance as the Phantom of the Opera, which is and I've just seen some clips on the internet and listened to the recording, but it is one of the legendary performances of musical theater history. And while the characters are very different, one guy playing both, I can see where the comparisons, which they were comparisons anyway. I think the New York Times review said, "Where's a mask when you need one?" But he wanted to try to avoid that, and he led the effort to make it more farcical, more comical. I read that I'd love to read his account, like if he would like to publish a sequel to Parcel Arrived Safely Tied with String, which is the title of his memoir. I would love to read his account of Dance of the Vampires, and The Woman in White for that matter, and The Wizard of Oz, and I want to read the sequel to his memoir. But, so I think that was the primary reason it diverged from what in Germany was, or not, well, Germany, Austria, all the places in Europe it played. It is certainly funny at times. Even I can tell that listening to the German language cast recording. With, by the way, as Count von Krolak, Michael Crawford's Phantom of the Opera co-star Steve Barton. He was the original Count von Krolak. And he also then, well, he had played the Phantom, but he wasn't on the recording as the Phantom. He didn't win the Olivier and the Tony as the Phantom, so there was less. But Raoul, the original Raoul, did at some point play the Phantom, I think, and then he played Count von Krolak, but it wasn't as big a deal for him. In Europe, it's still a very successful musical. Tanz der Vampire, or whatever else it goes by, in other countries. It's still very successful, and it's not farcical. And I believe that before Michael Crawford came on board and they started changing things to make it funnier, I think I even had downloaded that version of the script, the original translation, more directly from the thing. I don't know where I got it, but somewhere on the internet in the early 2000s it said, this is the original thing, download it. I did, and I think I still have it somewhere on some computer. But the point is, that version exists. A revival of Dance of the Vampires doesn't have to be the one that this playbill, which is not my playbill. My playbill has Best Wishes, Michael Crawford, written across the top by him. I have a picture of him writing it, and my face is blurrily in that picture. Where was I? You can tell I'm excited. I have a place in my heart for the musical because it's the only time that I've seen Michael Crawford live on stage. Love to see him again, but it will always have that special place. But you can bring back Dance of the Vampires, do the version that is a more direct translation of the European version that was a hit, and cast James Marsters, Spike from Buffy, in the role. Spike, I think, probably, and the malevolent supernatural force I live with is the expert, but I would say he's probably the second after Buffy most popular element of that show. And I guess he was on Angel as well. I only saw the episodes of Angel that Buffy appears in, but he was there too. He was popular enough that they put him on both shows. And there's even well, for one thing, the malevolent force says that James Marsters has a band. I believe her. There's a musical episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer called Once More with Feeling, and he sings a song. He's got a very rock voice. Spike is a very rock and roll kind of character. Dance of the Vampires is a rock and roll musical. Count von Krolock sings versions of the Jim Steinman classics Total Eclipse of the Heart, originally a Bonnie Tyler song, and Objects in the Rearview Mirror may appear closer than they are. Are closer than they appear is what's actually written on rearview mirrors, but may appear closer than they are is the lyric from the song. Just to clarify that. That confused me for a long time, so I want to make sure I'm clear about that. So yes, he sings. He's a vampire that people recognize, and he's got a rock voice, rock musical. It would bring people back to Broadway, because I think a lot of the people buying tickets to Broadway shows these days loved Buffy and Spike back in the day. So that's my pitch. It's as simple as that. I have other ideas if the people who could actually make this happen want to bring me in, give me a little producer credit. But I think that this would bring people back to Broadway. I don't know how things are doing with the reopening, but it could be, again, it wouldn't be the version from 2002, 2003. It would be closer to the European version, maybe even better. That version exists, and it could exist on Broadway, and it could be a big deal. That's my pitch. I'm going to leave it at that. I'd love to see this happen, but there's nothing I can do with Total Eclipse of the Heart.